Have you noticed how some people seem to carry their energy with them through the decades, while others appear to run out of steam well before their years would predict? It is one of those observations we all make, but rarely examine closely. Two people the same age, and yet one moves through life with purpose and vitality, while the other seems diminished. Diminished in ways that have little to do with the number of birthdays they have accumulated. We tend to attribute this to genetics, to luck, to factors beyond our control. But what if the difference lies elsewhere? What if the body is sending signals all along the way? Signals we have learned to dismiss as normal aging, but that are actually something else entirely. A kind of dialogue between ourselves and our choices that determines not just how long we live, but how fully we inhabit whatever years we are given. There is a deeper story beneath the surface of aging, and it begins in places we cannot see but can learn to understand. You are listening to the Longevity Library, where we archive the wisdom of healthy aging. The long life. Understanding how we age and what shapes the years we're given. There is a question that eventually arrives in every thoughtful person's mind. Sometimes in the quiet hours of the morning or during a pause in an otherwise ordinary day. It is not a question born of fear, exactly, but of curiosity, of reflection, of the simple human desire to understand what lies ahead and whether the path we are walking might be gently adjusted. The question is this: what determines how long we live? And perhaps more importantly, what determines how well we live throughout those years? When we look across the human family, we notice something striking. In some parts of the world, living into the 9th decade is the expected course. In others, the 7th decade often marks the end of the journey. A child born in one country can reasonably expect to celebrate 85 birthdays. A child born in another, only 75. This difference of 10 years is not trivial, and it is not random. It represents something fundamental about how daily life shapes the arc of human health. Within a single country, these differences persist. Some regions consistently show longer average lifespans, while others lag behind. The reasons for these disparities are woven into the fabric of how people live, what they eat, how they move, who they spend time with, what they believe about their place in the world. These are not matters of genetics alone. They are matters of pattern and practice, accumulated over decades and expressed in the language of cellular health. This is not a story about miracles or secret formulas. It is a story about the ordinary, daily choices that, repeated thousands of times across a lifetime, shape the body's trajectory. It is a story about understanding the body not as a machine that inevitably wears out, but as a living system that responds to its environment in predictable ways. And it is a story about the difference between simply accumulating years and carrying vitality forward into every year we are given. The cellular architecture of time. To understand why bodies change with age, we must look where aging actually begins. It does not start with the first gray hair or the first morning stiffness. It starts deep within the cells, in processes so small that for most of human history they were completely invisible. Only in recent decades have scientists been able to observe what happens at this microscopic level as years pass. Every cell in your body is engaged in constant conversation. They send signals to one another, exchanging information about energy needs, repair requirements, threats detected. This communication network is as sophisticated as any telecommunications system, with messages traveling through chemical pathways, binding to receptors, triggering responses. When this system works well, the body coordinates its activities smoothly. When it breaks down, the body begins to lose its ability to maintain balance. Consider what happens when a text message goes to the wrong person or an email is lost in spam. The intended communication never arrives, and confusion follows. Something similar occurs in the body when cellular signals are disrupted. Hormones are among the primary carriers of these messages. When insulin struggles to communicate with cells, blood sugar rises. When cortisol and melatonin fall out of their natural rhythm, sleep suffers. When the signals that govern reproductive hormones weaken, cycles become irregular and vitality declines. The body has many such communication systems, and they are all interconnected. The gut talks to the brain through multiple channels. The immune system sends out alerts when threats appear. Fat tissue releases hormones that influence appetite and inflammation. Every system is listening to every other system, and the quality of this listening determines much about how well the body functions. Another fundamental process occurs within the microscopic structures that power every cell. These are the mitochondria, tiny organelles that convert nutrients into the energy currency the body runs on. A single cell may contain hundreds or thousands of these power plants, each working continuously to keep the cell supplied with what it needs. When mitochondria function well, energy flows freely. When they decline, the effects are felt everywhere. Think of a city experiencing a power shortage. Lights dim, appliances run poorly. Some services shut down entirely. The same happens in the body when mitochondrial output drops. Fatigue becomes a constant companion. Healing slows. The mind feels less sharp. Physical tasks that once required little effort now demand more. This is not simply a matter of getting older. It is a matter of the body's energy infrastructure gradually losing capacity. The mitochondria face constant challenges. They produce energy through processes that naturally generate free radicals, molecules that can damage the very structures that created them. This is like a power plant that produces pollution along with electricity. Under normal conditions, the body has systems to neutralize this pollution. But when those systems become overwhelmed, damage accumulates. DNA within cells can be harmed. Proteins can be altered. Cell membranes can weaken. This accumulation of damage is what we experience as aging. It is not a single process, but many processes occurring simultaneously, each influencing the others. The signals that coordinate cellular activity grow weaker. The power plants produce less energy while generating more waste. The systems that normally clean up damaged components become less efficient. Over time, these changes compound, and the body begins to show the effects. There is a natural cleaning system within cells called autophagy. The word comes from Greek roots meaning self-eating, which accurately describes what happens. Cells identify components that are damaged or no longer useful, break them down, and recycle the usable parts. This is the body's version of housekeeping and waste management combined. When it works well, cells remain relatively clear of debris. When it slows down, cells become cluttered with dysfunctional components that interfere with normal operations. Imagine a city where trash collection stopped. Streets would gradually fill with refuse, attracting pests, creating hazards, making normal life increasingly difficult. Something similar happens in cells when autophagy declines. Damaged proteins accumulate. Worn-out mitochondria linger instead of being replaced. The cellular environment becomes congested, and function suffers. Some damaged cells take on a particularly troublesome state. Instead of dying as they should, they persist in a kind of half-life, neither functioning properly nor being cleared away. These are sometimes called zombie cells, and they do not simply sit quietly. They release inflammatory signals that affect the healthy cells around them, spreading dysfunction like a bad influence in a neighborhood. The presence of these cells correlates strongly with age-related changes throughout the body. The body does have repair crews. However, stem cells stand ready to replace damaged tissues, to rebuild what has been worn down. They are the construction workers of the body, capable of becoming whatever cell type is needed. But these crews have limits. They can only work so long before their numbers dwindle and their responsiveness declines. When stem cells become exhausted, healing slows. Injuries that once mended quickly now linger. Illnesses that were easily shaken off now take hold. All of these processes are influenced by the microbiome, the vast community of microorganisms living primarily in the digestive tract. These tiny inhabitants are not passive passengers. They actively participate in regulating immunity, metabolism, and even mood. They help extract nutrients from food. They produce compounds that influence brain function. They train the immune system to distinguish friend from foe. When this community becomes unbalanced, the effects ripple through the entire body. The ancient understanding and modern science, long before microscopes revealed these cellular processes, traditional healing systems recognized that human health depended on multiple dimensions working in harmony. The concept appears in various forms across cultures, but the essential insight is remarkably consistent. Human beings are not simply physical bodies. We are also beings of energy and spirit, and these dimensions cannot be separated from physical health. In traditional Chinese medicine, this understanding took the form of the three treasures. The first treasure, Jing, corresponds roughly to the physical body, the inherited constitution, the structural foundation, the raw material of existence. The second, Qi, represents the animating force, the energy that flows through living systems and keeps them vital. The third, Shun, encompasses consciousness, spirit, and the deeper sense of identity and purpose. These three dimensions were understood as interdependent. A person could have strong Jing but depleted Qi and still experience poor health. Someone might maintain physical practices while neglecting Shun and find that something essential remained out of balance. The health of the whole person required attention to all three. Other traditions developed similar frameworks. Greek medicine spoke of body, mind, and spirit. Ayurvedic tradition recognized multiple layers of human existence beyond the merely physical. Biblical texts refer to health of body, soul, and spirit. These parallels across cultures suggest something universal about human experience, that we are more than our biology, and that lasting health must address the whole of what we are. Modern research has begun to validate this broader view in unexpected ways. Studies of purpose and longevity find that people with a strong sense of meaning in their lives tend to live longer than those without. The effect is not small. Some research suggests that purpose may add years to life expectancy comparable to the difference between smokers and non-smokers. Social connection shows similar effects. The Harvard study of adult development, which has followed participants for nearly a century, found that the quality of relationships was the single strongest predictor of who thrived into advanced age. Not cholesterol levels, not exercise habits, not diet. The warmth and reliability of connections with other people mattered most. This does not mean physical habits are irrelevant. It means they operate within a larger context. A perfect diet cannot compensate for chronic loneliness. Regular exercise will not fully counteract the effects of living without purpose. The physical, the energetic, and the spiritual work together, and neglecting any dimension limits what the others can achieve. Movement through the years. The human body was designed for motion. Every system, from the cardiovascular to the musculoskeletal to the neurological, expects and requires regular physical activity to function optimally. When movement is absent for long periods, these systems begin to decline in predictable ways. Muscles weaken. Bones lose density. Joints stiffen. The heart becomes less efficient. The brain receives less stimulation. Yet not all movement serves the same purpose. The type of activity, its intensity, its frequency, and its context all influence what the body gains from it. Some forms of exercise appear to extend life more than others, and understanding these differences can help guide choices about how to stay active across the decades. Walking stands as the most fundamental human movement. It requires no special equipment, no gym membership, no instruction. It can be done almost anywhere, at almost any time, by almost anyone, and its effects on health are remarkably consistent. Regular walking is associated with lower rates of heart disease, better weight management, improved mood, and reduced risk of many chronic conditions. Some research suggests that people who walk regularly may gain years of life expectancy compared to those who are sedentary. The benefits of walking extend beyond the purely physical. Walking outdoors exposes the body to natural light, which helps regulate circadian rhythms and supports vitamin D production. Walking with others provides social connection that amplifies the health effects. Walking through natural settings reduces stress hormones in ways that walking on treadmills indoors does not. The context of movement matters as much as the movement itself. Swimming offers another excellent form of movement, particularly for older bodies. The buoyancy of water supports joints while providing resistance that builds strength and endurance. Working against water engages large muscle groups throughout the body. The breath control required for swimming supports lung function and can have calming effects on the nervous system. For those with arthritis or joint concerns, water provides a way to stay active without pain. Activities that combine physical movement with social engagement and cognitive challenge appear particularly valuable. Tennis and similar racket sports have been associated with significant life extension in long-term studies. Researchers who analyzed decades of data found that tennis players lived years longer than non-players, and the effect was larger than for many other forms of exercise. Why might this be? Several factors likely contribute. The social aspect of playing with others provides connection that reduces stress and supports mental health. The cognitive demands of tracking a ball, anticipating opponents' moves, and making split-second decisions engage the brain in ways that repetitive exercise does not. The emotional release of striking a ball may reduce tension, and the physical demands of the sport provide cardiovascular conditioning while building strength and coordination. Similar benefits likely apply to pickleball, which has become popular among older adults. It offers many of the same elements as tennis: social interaction, cognitive engagement, moderate physical demands, with lower impact on joints. The rapid growth of this sport suggests that many people are discovering these benefits for themselves. Cycling provides another option with strong research support. Whether outdoors on roads and trails or indoors on stationary bikes, cycling builds cardiovascular fitness while being gentle on joints. It can be done alone or in groups, providing flexibility for different preferences. For those who cycle outdoors, it also offers exposure to nature and changing scenery that makes exercise feel less like work. Strength training deserves attention as well, though for somewhat different reasons. While its effects on life expectancy may be less dramatic than some forms of aerobic exercise, its effects on quality of life are profound. Maintaining muscle mass supports mobility, balance, and independence. It helps prevent the falls that become increasingly dangerous with age. It supports metabolic health by providing a reservoir that can help regulate blood sugar. It contributes to the physical capacity that makes daily life easier and more enjoyable. The key insight about movement is that it should be sustainable. Activities that cause pain or injury cannot be maintained. Activities that feel like punishment are hard to continue. The best forms of movement are those that can be integrated into daily life, that provide enjoyment beyond the exercise itself, that can be adapted as abilities change over time. Walking to the store instead of driving. Gardening that involves bending, reaching, and carrying. Dancing for pleasure. Playing with grandchildren. These activities accumulate into a pattern of movement that supports health across decades. The patterns of eating that support long life. When we examine populations where people consistently live long, healthy lives, certain patterns in eating emerge. These are not strict diets with rigid rules. They are flexible approaches to food that have developed over generations, shaped by what was available and what worked. They share common elements that appear to support the cellular processes already described. Perhaps the most consistent observation is that these populations eat mostly whole foods. Their meals are built around ingredients that look much as they did when harvested: vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, fish, modest amounts of meat and dairy. They eat relatively few foods that come in packages with long ingredient lists. They consume minimal amounts of the highly processed products that make up much of the modern diet. This pattern makes intuitive sense when we consider what cells need. Whole foods provide the full range of nutrients in forms that the body recognizes. They contain fiber that feeds the microbiome. They deliver phytochemicals that support the body's defense systems. They provide protein, fats, and carbohydrates in combinations that slow absorption and prevent sharp spikes in blood sugar. The traditional Mediterranean diet exemplifies this pattern. It emphasizes vegetables in abundance, fruits for dessert, legumes as a staple, nuts and seeds for snacks and cooking. Olive oil provides the primary fat, rich in compounds that reduce inflammation. Fish appears regularly, supplying omega-3 fatty acids that support brain and heart health. Meals are often shared with others, eaten slowly, accompanied by conversation. Research following large populations over time has linked this pattern to lower rates of heart disease, reduced cognitive decline, and longer average lifespans. The effects are substantial enough that many health organizations now recommend Mediterranean-style eating as a foundation for healthy aging. The blue zone populations, those regions where people reach age 100 at unusually high rates, show similar patterns. In Okinawa, sweet potatoes and vegetables form the base of the diet, with small amounts of fish and pork. In Sardinia, whole grains, beans, vegetables, and moderate wine consumption characterize traditional eating. In Ikaria, a Mediterranean diet combines with local herbs and a relaxed approach to meals. These populations also tend to practice what might be called natural portion control. The Okinawan concept of hara hachibiyu, eating until you are 80% full, represents a wisdom about not overloading the digestive system. Meals are satisfying without being excessive. The body receives what it needs without the burden of processing extra calories that must be stored or eliminated. This approach aligns with research on caloric restriction, which has shown that reducing overall food intake while maintaining nutrition can extend lifespan in many species. The mechanisms appear to involve reduced oxidative stress, improved metabolic function, and enhanced cellular cleaning processes. Eating lightly most of the time, with occasional meals that are more generous, may approximate these effects without requiring constant deprivation. The quality of fats consumed also appears important. Populations with long lifespans tend to eat fats that come from whole foods rather than industrial processing. Olive oil, nuts, avocados, and fatty fish provide fats that support cell membrane function and reduce inflammation. They consume relatively few of the oils extracted from seeds using high heat and chemical solvents, which can promote inflammation when consumed in excess. Fermented foods appear regularly in many traditional diets. Kimchi in Korea, sauerkraut in Germany, yogurt in many cultures, miso in Japan, all provide live bacteria that can support the microbiome. These foods have been part of human eating for thousands of years, long before anyone understood why they might be beneficial. They survive through tradition because people who ate them seemed to thrive. The timing of eating may matter as well. Many traditional cultures naturally practice what modern researchers call time-restricted eating. They eat during daylight hours and stop well before bed. The long overnight fast gives the digestive system time to rest and allows cellular cleaning processes to activate. This pattern, repeated daily, may support metabolic health in ways that constant snacking throughout waking hours does not. The nervous system and the pace of aging. The body's stress response system evolved to handle occasional acute threats. When a predator appears, hormones surge, heart rate increases, blood flow redirects to muscles, and the body prepares for action. Once the threat passes, the system returns to baseline, and the body recovers. This cycle served our ancestors well for millions of years. The challenge of modern life is that the system was not designed for chronic activation. When stress becomes continuous, when worries about work, finances, relationships, and health never fully resolve, the stress response never fully shuts off. The body remains in a state of low-grade alert indefinitely, and this has consequences. Cortisol, one of the primary stress hormones, follows a natural daily rhythm. It rises in the morning to help us wake and engage with the day. It declines through the afternoon and evening, reaching its lowest point at night to allow rest. Chronic stress disrupts this rhythm, keeping cortisol higher than it should be when it should be low. This interferes with sleep, impairs immune function, and contributes to inflammation. The nervous system also has a branch dedicated to rest and restoration. The parasympathetic system, sometimes called rest and digest, calms the body, slows the heart, directs energy toward digestion and repair. This system must be actively engaged in modern life because the default state for many people is sympathetic activation, the alert, ready for action state. Practices that engage the parasympathetic system have real, measurable effects on health. Deep, slow breathing activates nerves that tell the body it is safe to rest. Time in nature reduces stress hormones and improves mood. Prayer, meditation, and similar practices calm the mind while also calming the body at a physiological level. Even brief periods of these practices, repeated regularly, can shift the balance toward restoration. The Japanese practice of forest bathing, simply spending time in wooded areas, engaging the senses without any particular goal, has been studied for its effects on health. Research has found that forest bathing reduces cortisol, lowers blood pressure, and improves immune function. These effects are not mystical. They represent the body's natural response to environments that signal safety and abundance. Social connection also regulates the nervous system. Being with trusted others, sharing conversation and laughter, triggers release of hormones that promote bonding and calm. Physical contact with loved ones, a hug, a hand on the shoulder, activates pathways that reduce stress. These effects are so powerful that loneliness itself becomes a physiological stressor, raising inflammation and accelerating aging. The social body. We tend to think of our bodies as individual, bounded by skin, separate from others. But from a biological perspective, this separation is less absolute than it seems. Our hormones respond to the presence of others. Our immune systems are influenced by our social networks. Our behaviors are shaped by those around us in ways we often do not recognize. The Harvard study mentioned earlier found that people with strong social connections lived longer, but the reasons are multiple. Socially connected people have more opportunities for physical activity, walking with friends, playing games, engaging in activities together. They have more people to call when they need help, reducing the stress of facing challenges alone. They have more sources of meaning and purpose, which itself supports health. Social connection also shapes behavior through more subtle channels. We tend to eat like those we eat with. We adopt the activity patterns of our companions. We absorb attitudes about health and aging from our social circles. When those circles value healthy behaviors, maintaining those behaviors becomes easier. When they normalize unhealthy patterns, resistance becomes harder. This is not about abandoning friends who make different choices. It is about recognizing that social environments matter and making conscious decisions about how we spend our time. Investing in relationships with people who support our well-being. Seeking out communities that share our values. Creating opportunities for connection that also support health, walking groups, cooking clubs, volunteer activities. Family relationships carry particular weight. Cultures with exceptional longevity tend to keep aging parents and grandparents nearby, integrated into daily life rather than separated. Children benefit from this arrangement, learning from elders and developing relationships across generations. Elders benefit from continued engagement, from being needed, from the stimulation of young people. The arrangement serves everyone. Faith communities also appear in the research on longevity. Regular participation in religious or spiritual communities correlates with longer life, and the effect is large enough to measure. This likely reflects multiple factors: the social support these communities provide, the stress-reducing effects of prayer and meditation, the sense of purpose that comes from belonging to something larger than oneself, and the behavioral norms many faith traditions encourage. Purpose as physiology. The question of why we get up in the morning is not merely philosophical. It has physiological consequences. People who can articulate a clear sense of purpose show different patterns of brain activity, different hormone profiles, different inflammatory markers than those who cannot. Purpose appears to organize the body's systems around something meaningful, and this organization has protective effects. The mechanisms are not fully understood, but several pathways have been identified. Purpose provides motivation to maintain health behaviors, to eat well, to stay active, to see doctors when needed. Purpose reduces the impact of stress, providing a framework that makes daily frustrations seem less overwhelming. Purpose may directly influence the nervous system, shifting balance toward restoration and away from chronic activation. Purpose need not be grand or public. It can be as simple as caring for a garden, supporting grandchildren, maintaining a home, creating something beautiful. It can be work that continues past retirement, paid or volunteer. It can be religious devotion or community service or artistic expression. What matters is that it feels meaningful to the person living it. The loss of purpose that sometimes accompanies retirement or children leaving home represents a genuine health risk. The sudden absence of structure and meaning can trigger declines that appear purely physical but have social and psychological roots. Maintaining purpose requires intentional effort during transitions, finding new ways to contribute and engage when old structures fall away. This is why cultures with strong intergenerational connections often handle aging well. Elders retain clear roles, teachers of tradition, caregivers for grandchildren, sources of wisdom and history. These roles provide purpose that does not depend on employment or physical capacity. They integrate elders into community life in ways that benefit everyone. Environment and exposure. The body constantly interacts with its environment, responding to what it encounters in the air we breathe, the water we drink, the surfaces we touch. Some of these exposures support health, others challenge it. Understanding these interactions allows for choices that reduce unnecessary burden on the body's defense systems. Air quality varies enormously by location and by time of day. Fine particles from vehicles, industry, and even cooking can penetrate deep into lungs and enter the bloodstream, triggering inflammation throughout the body. The effects are measurable in rates of heart disease, respiratory conditions, and cognitive decline. Spending time in areas with cleaner air parks, green spaces, away from major roads, reduces this exposure. Water quality similarly affects health. Contaminants ranging from heavy metals to agricultural runoff to industrial chemicals can accumulate in the body over time, adding to the toxic burden the liver and kidneys must process. Simple filtration can reduce many of these exposures, though the specifics depend on local water sources. Light exposure shapes circadian rhythms, which influence virtually every bodily system. Morning light, particularly sunlight, signals the body to set its internal clock for the day ahead. Evening light, especially the blue wavelengths from screens, delays sleep onset and disrupts the rhythm. The modern environment of constant artificial light can confuse these ancient systems, with consequences for sleep, metabolism, and mood. Noise exposure also matters, though it receives less attention. Chronic noise, traffic, construction, even constant background television keeps the nervous system partially activated, raising stress hormones even when we are not consciously annoyed. Quiet periods allow the nervous system to settle, supporting restoration and repair. Time in natural environments appears to counter some of these environmental stressors. The sounds of birds and water differ from human-made noise. The light in natural settings follows a different spectrum. The air contains compounds released by plants that may have direct physiological effects. These environments signal safety to ancient systems that evolved in natural settings, allowing relaxation that built environments often prevent. Sleep and circadian health. Sleep is not merely rest. It is an active period of essential maintenance. During sleep, the brain clears waste products that accumulate during waking hours. The immune system releases compounds that support defense. Tissues repair damage. Memories consolidate. Hormones reset for the coming day. When sleep is insufficient or poor quality, all of these processes suffer. The relationship between sleep and aging is bidirectional. Aging changes sleep patterns, making sleep lighter and more easily disrupted. Poor sleep, in turn, accelerates aging processes, creating a cycle that can be difficult to break. Understanding this relationship highlights the importance of protecting sleep as we age. The circadian system that regulates sleep also regulates much else. Body temperature, hormone release, metabolism, even the timing of cell division all follow daily rhythms. When these rhythms are disrupted by irregular schedules, by light at night, by eating at the wrong times, the body's coordination suffers. Systems that should work together fall out of sync, and efficiency declines. Supporting circadian health involves simple practices, regular wake and sleep times, even on weekends, help the body maintain its rhythm. Morning light exposure reinforces the natural cycle. Dimming lights in evening, particularly reducing blue light from screens, allows melatonin to rise appropriately. Eating during daylight hours, with a substantial overnight fast, aligns metabolism with the body's daily rhythms. The sleep environment matters as well. Cool temperatures support sleep better than warm ones. Darkness allows uninterrupted melatonin production. Quiet reduces awakenings. A comfortable bed and bedding make it easier to find restful positions. These factors are not luxuries. They are conditions necessary for the body to perform its nightly maintenance. The wisdom of moderation. Across all the research on longevity, one theme appears repeatedly. Moderation serves better than extremes. The people who eat the most restrictive diets do not consistently outlive those who eat reasonably varied meals. Those who exercise the most intensely do not show the longest lifespans. Those who pursue health with obsessive focus sometimes miss the social and spiritual dimensions that matter as much as any physical practice. Moderation applies to food, eating mostly whole foods, mostly plants, mostly in quantities that satisfy without overwhelming. It applies to activity, moving regularly without punishing the body. It applies to stress, taking life seriously while also taking time to rest. It applies to social connection, investing in relationships while maintaining appropriate boundaries. It applies to purpose, pursuing meaning without becoming consumed by it. The body handles moderate stress as well. In fact, it often grows stronger in response to them. Brief periods of fasting activate cellular cleaning. Vigorous exercise stimulates adaptation. Challenging mental tasks build cognitive reserve. Cold exposure, heat exposure, controlled discomfort of various kinds. The body responds to these by becoming more resilient. The key is that the stress must be followed by recovery. Must be occasional rather than constant. Must be within the body's capacity to adapt. Constant stress, whether physical or psychological, produces the opposite effect. It depletes reserves, damages systems, accelerates decline. The difference between challenge and overload is individual, varying with age, health status, and recent history. Learning to read the body's signals, to distinguish between productive discomfort and harmful strain, is a skill that develops with attention and experience. Integration, the life that supports long life. When we step back from the details, a coherent picture emerges. Long life supported by vitality is not a matter of any single practice or substance. It is a pattern of living that addresses multiple dimensions of human existence, that balances effort and rest, that connects the individual to something larger than themselves. The physical dimension requires attention to what the body takes in, food, water, air, and what it does, movement, rest, recovery. It requires awareness of how the body responds to different inputs and the wisdom to adjust accordingly. It requires accepting that the body changes with time and adapting practices to match current capacities rather than mourning past abilities. The energetic dimension involves the flow of vitality through the body. It is supported by breath, by movement that feels alive rather than mechanical, by engagement with the world that sparks interest and enthusiasm. It is diminished by stagnation, by activities that drain without replenishing, by environments that feel dead or oppressive. Attending to this dimension means noticing what gives energy and what takes it, then adjusting accordingly. The spiritual dimension encompasses meaning, purpose, connection to something beyond the self. It is supported by relationships that matter, by contributions that feel significant, by practices that connect to deeper realities. It is diminished by isolation, by meaninglessness, by the sense that one's life does not matter. Attending to this dimension means asking the large questions and living the answers, whatever form they take. These dimensions are not separate. Physical practices affect energy and spirit. Spiritual connection influences physical health. Energy flows through all of them, connecting body to mind to something beyond both. Addressing one dimension without the others yields limited results. Addressing all of them creates conditions where health can flourish. The path forward. There is no single correct way to apply these insights. Each person's circumstances differ, their starting point, their resources, their preferences, their constraints. The goal is not to achieve perfection in any dimension, but to move in a generally helpful direction, making choices that support rather than undermine the body's natural capacity for health. Small changes, consistently applied, accumulate over time. A daily walk becomes a practice that shapes the body and mind. Regular meals built around whole foods gradually shift metabolism. Consistent sleep habits restore the circadian rhythm. Weekly time with friends maintains social connections that buffer stress. Daily moments of quiet settle the nervous system. These are not dramatic interventions. They are gentle adjustments to the pattern of living. The body has remarkable capacity for repair and renewal when given what it needs. Cells replace themselves. Tissues rebuild. Systems recalibrate. This capacity does not disappear with age. It slows, but it does not stop. The body continues responding to its environment, for better or worse, throughout life. Changes made today affect the body tomorrow, next month, next year. The research on longevity offers guidance, not guarantees. Following the patterns associated with long life does not ensure any particular number of years. What it offers is something perhaps more valuable: the best chance of living whatever years we are given with vitality, with connection, with meaning. It offers the possibility of adding life to our years, not just years to our life. This is the deeper goal behind all the practices and principles. Not merely to extend the timeline, but to enrich what fills it. To remain engaged with the world, connected to others, capable of joy and contribution, for as long as we are here. To carry forward into every decade the essential qualities that make life worth living: curiosity, love, purpose, presence. The path is walked one day at a time, one choice at a time, one small adjustment at a time. There is no finish line, no final achievement. There is only the ongoing process of living in a way that supports the life we have, honoring the body that carries us through the years, and staying open to whatever years remain. If there is one idea to carry forward from this reflection, it is that the body is not simply a machine that wears out with time, but a living system that responds continuously to how we live, to what we eat, how we move, who we love, and why we rise each morning. The research offers guidance, but the application is always personal, always unfolding in the context of your own life, your own circumstances, your own sense of what matters. We would be honored to hear what this brings up for you. What questions arise? What observations you have made about your own journey through the years? The comments below offer a space for that kind of thoughtful exchange. And if this reflection has added something to your understanding, you will find more conversations like it throughout this library, conversations that explore the many dimensions of living well across a lifetime. You can subscribe so that each new edition finds its way to you. Until then, thank you for your time and your attention. This is the Longevity Library. Listen, learn, and live longer.